fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Hey everyone, the USF 2000 is a blast to drive now, and here's your chance to learn it quickly. From my tutorial, VRS created a free bonus track guide for the Laguna Seca circuit, where you can learn exactly what I do in every corner to improve your lap times and get faster on track. You'll learn how to easily recognize brake markers, you'll find out which curves to attack and which ones to avoid, you'll know when to use the full track and when a sequence of corners requires a compromise. And you'll learn how hard to brake and when to lift. The VRS Quick Reference track maps are available free to download and delivered each week to your inbox. The entire global MX-5 series is available, as well as bonus maps like this one and many more. So if you're a new racer, or a veteran, or just anyone who wants to learn how to get faster sooner, the VRS track guides are for you. Just hit the link or button on screen and get yours today.
Are you new to sim racing, or maybe a veteran struggling to reach the next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. VRS coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRating roller coaster? If so, VRS one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums.
Welcome one and all to SimSpeed TV. This beautiful Saturday afternoon. Didn't take long for me to make a mistake that time, did it? Goodness me, and there's probably more to come, because we've got the 2021 Majors Series International Division. This is the second wildcard round of the season, the Phillip Island Super Sprint in the Australian touring cars, the Holden Commodore and the Ford Falcon from 2014. We've got two races coming up for you tonight, a short sprint to start things off, and then a longer race with a pit stop to shuffle up the order and test drivers' strategy mettle. And to bring it to you live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, and Ryan Jones in the commentary box with me once again. Ryan, it's V8s at Phillip Island, and certainly there's a lot of history there, a lot of good racing to be had.
Most certainly is. It's a wildcard round, as you mentioned, second one of the season for our international division over in Europe. They're doing the Southern National 300 and a Chevy Monte Carlo SS at Southern National Motorsports Park, and it's the Snowball Derby for the Americans at Five Flags Speedway in the Super Late models. But we love our V8s down under, and we had to bring the V8s to Phillip Island. Here's a look at the track. 12 turns in length, been around since 1956, and a track with plenty of iconic corners and a lot of fast corners. This is a fast and fearsome track, beginning at Doohan and ending at turn 12, which I feel like deserves a named corner, but it is just turn 12. In between there, you've got MG, you've got Honda, Stoner, Siberia, Lukey Heights, and the Southern Loop as well. It is a really tricky track to get right, and to string a lap together, not just once, but consistently over what will be 27 laps for race 1, and 45 laps for race 2, is going to be extremely tough today.
Absolutely is, and yeah, what a brilliant circuit Phillip Island is. Slipstreaming is going to be critical down the front stretch, and pretty much every braking zone here is a passing opportunity. You can certainly get your line in on turns 1 and 2, but the prime overtaking opportunities around the course are definitely at the Honda hairpin and at MG towards the end of the lap. You can also make a move at Siberia and through the hay shed, going side by side if you are brave enough. Let's take a look at the lie of the land very quickly before we head into our racing action. The Pro Driver Championship standings, Cameron Dance leads by 31 points over Thomas Hens. And they've been battling for the championship all throughout the season. Hensy has led the championship at a couple of points, but for now, it seems Cameron Dance is back in control.
He is for now, but this isn't a car that Cameron traditionally enjoys, maybe not enjoys, but traditionally goes particularly well in or spends a lot of time in. So this might be a slight bogey round for him, although Cameron being Cameron, still probably going to have a pretty strong result. So this could be an opportunity for Hensy to claw that ground back and maybe swing the championship again in these closing rounds of the season. A strong result for Burns and Stadler, Andrews, any of these top 10 really, still puts them within striking distance if those guys at the front have drama.
Absolutely, and Daniel Stevens down there in 9th. He's currently P2 in the practice session, so he could stand to get a good points haul tonight. The Sportsman Drivers' Championship, look at how close this is. Brad Klenk has been the one who has led the way for the majority of the season, but JM Thomas really narrowing that gap down, just 7 points separating them there. And certainly for the drivers behind, like Thomas, Mookie, and Otto, even Connor Brown, Mitchell Bales, there's plenty that can be done for these guys to make up the points gaps here.
This is even closer than Pro, isn't it? Same story. Exactly the same story. A good round for anyone in the top 10, and bang, they're in the shot of winning the title. It's really cool to see how close this is going down to the wire. I really wish that they were in the same split as the pros, so we could see this happening on our screens and not just be reporting on it the next round, Reese, because it looks like an incredible battle that's happening out there on the racetrack each and every round.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, only 30 grid slots available in the servers that have been set up for this event, and there's 20 pros and about the same amount of sportsman drivers as well. So, unfortunately, they are making their race in a separate server tonight, and we will be reporting on that as time goes on. The pro team standings, well, it's closer than it's ever been between Kinetic International and TechSense Fitstye Motorsport. Those two teams have really pulled out all the stops this year in a very intense championship fight. For now, Kinetic is in control, but TechSense Fitstye, they've always had a good representation at every round.
Yeah, and TechSense are going to lose a pretty major driver soon, aren't they, as well? So they'll be keen to close this one out before they lose before they lose Simon Mizomo, and maybe with it a big chunk of points that comes with him every single round. So big opportunity still for Tech Sense to climb over Kinetic, but Middle Finger Racing as well. Don't count them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel Stevens is a part of that team, Middle Finger Racing Pro, and as I said, he's doing pretty well in the practice session and could get a good points haul here tonight. The Sportsman Teams Championship, well, it's the same story as it's been for the majority of the season once again. Gentlemen's Sim Racing Club, absolutely dominant. That's 190 points there. No, wait, 290 points ahead of Middle Finger Racing Sports White. There's very little chance that that gap can be made up in the remaining rounds of the season, but look at 4th and 5th, Ryan. It's very close between Vision Motorsport and Rip Racing, and DPR could certainly be in with a chance as well for a top 4.
Any one of those teams could pull it out of the bag heading into the closing stages of the championship. There's not that long to go. After this round, it's just... Well, there's just one more round, isn't there? 2 more rounds. Suzuka for us, and then the Indy Japan 300.
Yes, so not much time there at all. We will check out the Legends standings as well. Harold Stadler and Daniel Stevens are fighting for that one. Gavin Barber, a bit of an outside chance here for the drivers in our field over 50 years of age. Harold Stadler is doing quite well in the practice session at the moment. He's currently 5th. But Daniel Stevens, of course, ahead of him, so there's every chance that that battle could intensify, or if there's a problem for either Stadler or Stevens, then that'll certainly swing the title fight in the direction of either of them. And the Sportsman Pro, what? Goodness
Come on,
me.
Jay.
The Legends Sportsman standings we're taking a look at here. Phil Otto by 22 points over Jake Fox. Tell you what, that's another way that could go in that server if there's a good result for either Phil Otto or Jake Fox. Either way, time to go into the racing action very shortly. No stop needed in the opening sprint of 27 laps, but in race 2, we're going to have a grid based off those race 1 results with a approximately 50 litres of fuel stop. And depending on how drivers use their fuel, if they keep it in the draft and fuel save a little bit, Ryan, they can certainly make their pit stops shorter and vault themselves up the order.
We're recreating the 2014 event at Phillip Island, aren't we? Reese?
We are indeed.
And I'm just thinking back, as you mentioned the fuel, what year was it where we had a Garth Tander run out of fuel coming to the line in that race and get snatched away from victory on the last lap? Wonder if we'll see such drama in our fuel race in race 2. I think that might have been 2014.
Yeah, potentially. Certainly every chance of that happening. It's going to be borderline for quite a few of the drivers. But either way, we've got a great deal of racing action to go through tonight. And that race 2 length is certainly going to draw out the length of the event. We're going to be here for the next couple of hours at least with this field of drivers. Just 10 seconds or so to go in the practice session before we can get going into the race, and the grid is going to be set by times set in pre-qualifying over the course of the week. It would be interesting to see a qualifying session here in the server, but I think that would have drawn out our broadcast even further. And I mean, you know the deal with a qualifying session. Usually it is the fastest drivers who turn out on top, and I think that's exactly the same case as it was in pre-qualifying. Let's take a look then at the grid for Phillip Island Super Sprint here in the Majors Series. Cameron Dance on pole position and Thomas Hins in second, the 2 championship contenders in that order. Sean Campbell has done well enough to set a time for P3, starting alongside Brett Loxton, and he could certainly give Thomas Hins a little bit of help because they drove together in the V8 Scops Enduros. Daniel Stevens and Thomas O'Leary round out the top 6, with Harold Stadler starting out a 7th alongside Simon Mizomo, and it's Dwayne Burns and Matt Andrews Andrews, who round out the top 10. Top 12 rounded out by Alexander Sheridan and MFR's Jonathan Ben.
Ryan Barnes and Sam Harper share the next row of the grid, ahead of Gavin Barber and Shane Bowen. Eric Antilli and Will Leslie on the penultimate row of the grid, ahead of Justin Kirby and Dean Mole. 20 cars, and we're set.
Rise, and we're about to get going here. Cameron Dance off pole, and they are away. It's a great start for Dance, but Thomas Hinz, a bit too much wheel spin off the line. He's gotten swamped. Brett Loxton and Daniel Stevens get through on him before they get to turn 1, and they almost make it 3 wide as Sean Campbell's there in the middle. Oh, a slide for Loxton. A bit of an overcorrection there, and he is off into the runoff area at turn 1. He'll be able to get back on track, hopefully safely, as the rest of the field makes their way through Southern Loop. Cameron Dance is leading the way. 0.3 laps, coming up to 0.4 now as they make their way up to the Honda hairpin. This is one of the big overtaking spots, and Sean Campbell has a bit of a look from behind at Daniel Stevens. Hinz trying to get back through on Harold Stadler, but it doesn't work. And oh dear, it looks like Simon Mazzomo that's gone wide at the hairpin, off into the sticks and towards the back of the grid, then joined by Brett Loxton. But largely, it's been a pretty clean start. No contact from what I can see.
Yep. Big moment of oversteer for Loxton at turn 1. And as you mentioned, just, well, not really overcorrecting it, but as soon as you do correct that huge wobble, it sends you off into the grass. Nothing he could do. He gathered it up nice and he's back onto the track, and Mazzomo just outbrakes himself, trying to go around the outside at Honda hairpin and fired himself off the road. That's a corner where normally we see cars getting nudged off onto the inside and spearing straight on into the cars already in the hairpin. Thankfully, nothing of that sort happening on the opening lap, and we're coming out of turn 12 back onto the main straight for the first time of 27 laps in race number 1. Reminder that the grid positions for race 2 will be set by the finishing order of race 1. It's a TechSense Fitzstite Motorsport 1-2 right now.
Indeed, Cameron Dance in the lead with Sean Campbell in second, and Campbell not a regular competitor in the international region. He's using this as one of his other appearances, and last time we saw him in international, my goodness, he did well. So we'll wait and see how this goes. Oh my goodness, Daniel Stevens with a big dive up the inside of Campbell. The 29 season coming and gives him room as it's side by side with Thomas Hinz and Harold Stadler behind. Hinsey trying to make up positions here and get back up into second where he started, but Stadler is not making it easy for him through Siberia. Hinsey having to hang it out wide round the outside, side by side through Hayshed. We always love it when this happens, and Hinsey gets the advantage over Stadler, slots back through, back up into fourth. Good to see, but that TechSense Fitzstite 1-2 is under major threat here from Daniel Stevens, who is looking very racy versus Sean Campbell.
Yes, Stadler just dabbed the brake before Hayshed to allow Hinsey through. He didn't want to put himself on the outside there this early in the race. Behind them, O'Leary was able to get by Dwayne Burns through Siberia as well, so he's moved up a spot. A lot of change in the early laps as we ride on board and look at foot cam with Thomas Hinz in the number 16 Duke Shifters Commodore.
He's using the same pedals I do, Fanatec CSL Elites, with the load cell pedal in the middle. Certainly a big help in these cars.
And it's a Mustang. I have to correct myself on that. I didn't check what car he was driving. I took a 50-50 guess.
Yes, Hinsey can usually be seen in a Mustang. Of course, he put in a fantastic drive last season to win the Bathurst 500 in that very same car, as it's getting quite racy in the background with the kinetic runners here. Just hanging out a bit wide was Eric Antilli and Will Leslie in front of him. They got Shane Bowen just behind them for Avatar Auto Racing, who's looking a bit racy as well. His teammate Dwayne Burns is getting incredibly racy with everyone up ahead of them coming into Hayshed, almost running side by side there with Jonathan Bain and Matt Andrews. Big battles going on throughout this field, and here's the view for Jonathan Bain. Can't quite see what's going on his screens, but you can certainly see that he has a lot of screens available for the data there, and at least we're getting a very good view of what his right hand is doing.
As you were watching that, I just cast my eye back to Simon Mazzomo, who's starting to work on his recovery now. Oh, look at that at the front of the field, sorry. At the very front, down the main straight. Were they side by side? Big aggressive move in third place. And Daniel Stevens up the inside of Cameron Dance, because Sean Campbell now leads us into Southern Loop. Stevens on the outside, pinches to left front. And that's going to allow Thomas Hinds to sneak up the inside. Can he clear him on the exit? Yes, he can. A lot of change. It's Campbell from Dance, Hinsey and Stevens, your top 4.
And the reason that all went down was because Cameron Dance went off the track at the exit of the final corner. Thomas Hinds going to the inside to try and get a move on his championship rival, but it hasn't worked out for him. They are still very close, our top 4. But here is what happened to Cameron Dance. Turn 12, very difficult in these cars. You have to have a big lift and then get nice and smoothly on the throttle. But if you go on the throttle too soon, that is what happens. And Dance losing some valuable momentum there. Good on him to keep it going straight, but Campbell could only sail through there and take the lead. And Hinsey and Stevens tried their best to take advantage here at the first turn, but Dance held strong, at least versus Thomas Hinds. Daniel Stevens did very well there to try and take that position. Ultimately not successful for him, but there's still plenty of chances for that move to be made for the rest of our 27 laps. So Sean Campbell in the lead by nearly half a second now over Cameron Dance, and he's got quite the line behind him as Simon Mazzomo and Brett Loxton battle for 16th.
Oh yeah, I'll finish off that point. Mazzomo threw an almighty lob up at Siberia, almost sort of hip checked his opponent out of the way, and he's actually going to come under threat here from the shifters machine. So Mazzomo losing the spot there to Loxton. Now remember, these two both started at the front, so they're both trying to recover and move up the order. Battling amongst themselves won't help their cause. And I think Mazzomo will be smart here and just sit in behind Loxton, even if he does have the pace to maybe pass him. He'll just sit behind and try to follow him through. They're running 16th and 17th, and you can see a big line of cars in front of them. The next car on both of their hip, this will be Shane Bowen, then it's Eric Tilly and Will Wesley. Let's go back to the front race.
Yeah, Dance back in the lead, and that happened because there was some big looks being made at the hairpin. Take it easy, Sean Campbell keeps it nice and straight, but it's now Dance and Hinds back up into P1 and P2. Daniel Stevens with a big look to the inside, also trying to defend there from Harold Stadler, who, again, they've got their own championship fight to think about for the Legends title. But that's how it stands for now. And Campbell ran wide on the exit of the Honda hairpin. Just didn't get off to a good throttle application. So Cameron Dance was right there to take advantage. On board with Daniel Stevens, he'll be looking over his shoulder here. They've lost quite a bit of time to the top 3 in the last quarter of that lap.
Especially so, Stevens actually did the old Dance maneuver. Oh, it cops a hit.
Oh.
He dropped the right sides off the track at the exit of 12. It hurt his run down the main straight. Then he pinched from left front at Southern Loop. Remember, he did that a couple laps ago when he was trying to make the overtake. And that slowed him up mid-corner that time. And he just got a little nudge from Harold Stadler, who maybe overcommitted as well. So this is a great opening to the night. They're all going at it, hammer and tong. And they're almost side by side for the lead again there. Hinsey had a little look.
In the background, Dwayne Burns there, having a spin at the hairpin, and looks to me like that was contact with Jonathan Bain. My goodness.
Mazzomo got a big whack there from Loxton as they tried to drive around that car, rejoining the racetrack. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think I might have just caught a glimpse of it. We'll get a proper look here on the Virtual Racing School replay. So here's what happened to Dwayne Burns. It looks like Jonathan Bain giving him a bit of a tap around, and then coming into it, we see Loxton. Whoa, my goodness, yeah, Mazzomo going wide there with, I think that was Shane Bowen, and whoo, that was close. Big contact between them side by side on the way into Siberia, but wow, I'm very impressed with how the drivers have been able to hold on to these cars in those opening laps.
We know these cars are challenging to drive, and I think maybe we're seeing a little bit of unfamiliarity. That was challenging. For some of these drivers, the likes of maybe Dance or Campbell. You don't drive them so often as the likes of Hinsey or Loxton and co. even though Loxton did make that lap 1 mistake on cold tyres. But we're also seeing that they can be forgiving. We can catch them when they slide. And that's really good and sort of conducting to good racing.
Yeah, indeed. Hasn't been the case for the entirety of the car's existence, but certainly improvements made to the tyre model in recent builds has helped that for drivers, as that's an exchange of position between Burns and Bowen. And they'll continue on as per usual. Bit further up though, Thomas O'Leary and Harold Stadler getting feisty with each other, and Stadler dropping off the back of Sean Campbell. And something's happened to Daniel Stevens as well. He's actually behind Matt Andrews now, down in P7. Unfortunately, we missed that. What's going on here for Daniel Stevens? Just running wide on the way into Southern Loop and off into the gravel.
It felt like it was just going to happen. Every time he locked up that left front, you saw him get closer and closer to that grass. How do you describe Southern Loop, Reese? It pulls you towards that outside, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it does. There's a bit of elevation change in the middle of the corner as well, which means if you don't get right to the inside and stay there, you're just going to go wide as you go over the rise. We'll get another look at the corner here as Stevens comes in. You've got to stick to the inside there. That's the natural line when you come off turn 1 and going through the dip. Yeah, there's a little bit of positive camber as you get to the end of the corner there, just demonstrated by Sam Harper. But yeah, very difficult corner to get right at the best of times. Harper here is chasing down Alexander Sheridan for position 8, and no moves to be made at the hairpin that time around, but if he can nail the exit of Siberia, he might be able to have a go at Lukey Heights.
Someone's going to need to change the batteries on Daniel Stevens' lock lights after this race.
Yeah.
Because those tyres are sending smoke signals every corner. As Dance coming under big pressure now from his championship rival. This is first and second in the points, running first and second in this race. Hinsey needs to go by him and get more points than him in order to try and close that gap in the championship. Oh, hang on, we've got a drama at MG. Wow.
Oh dear. Is that Loxton? It is.
It all started with Will Leslie, or at least that's where I picked it up. Leslie was sideways across the grass on the inside. Check this out, thanks to Virtual Racing School. Our replay will tell us what happened.
Alright, so Loxton trying on the kinetic car at Lukey Heights and going for the move. Oh, he had a bit of a look at it, but oh, there he goes. Loxton, well, he had a little bit of room around the outside, but not enough to really keep it going, and unfortunately gets onto the grass. Round the rear goes. Have another view at it on board with Eric Intilli here.
It was a nice little battle until that point, Reese. I've been watching it for about a lap or so. They were doing cutbacks on each other and it was great. But yeah, it just comes unstuck there, and that's the danger of making that error and falling back. Put yourself in those positions.
Yeah, that's a big shame there. Unfortunately, Brett Loxton, probably not the fairest of ways to go out, as Mazomo around the outside here of Will Leslie at Siberia, and then completes the move through Hayshed. Mazomo continuing his charge back up the field here, up to P12 now, and he seems to have that calm look on his face that tells you he's focused on trying to get as far up the front as possible before the end of this 27 laps, but there's still quite a bit of work to do if he wants to get into the top 10. There's something to the tune of 4 seconds to Jonathan Bain up ahead as Dance and Hins continue to pressure each other for the race lead. Sean Campbell has dropped off the back of them. Obviously there's been a mistake for him somewhere along the line. But for now, our two championship contenders duking it out head-to-head, which is something we've been waiting to see properly all season.
The critical thing for all these drivers, especially Mizomo, working his way back up the order as we see Hinsey go for the dive at Honda hairpin. A little lock-up from Dance will send him wider than he wanted, and Hinsey's gone through. Now, can he pull away? Now that he's got clean air, does he have the pace in that car to drive away from Cameron Dance, or can Cameron latch onto the back of that Jinx Shifters machine as we go back on board with our new race leader?
Brilliant view there, and I appreciate the foot cam. It really shows you what you've got to do in these cars. They've got a gearbox such that you need to blip the throttle on the downshifts. It is a sequential transmission in these cars, but it's somewhat based off the 6-speed H-pattern Hollinger gearbox that the cars have run for the majority of their existence. So still a bit of manipulation required by the driver to get it into gear, but certainly a bit easier than it used to be. Here's a replay of the number 52 of Sam Harper going for the move on, looks like Alexander Sheridan in the number 5, but did he overcook it? Well, Sheridan was able to hold it round the outside just about, and a bit of a mistake there for Harper on the exit of the hairpin means that the move is not completed.
Actually got a hit from the MFR car behind him there, Reese.
Yeah, Jonathan Bean getting a little bit too aggressive there at the hairpin. He's still pressuring Harper massively as they come into Southern Loop here. That's
a cool shot. You can see the cars firing past in the background. You can see the tyre tracks on this shot of where...
That would have been Stevens.
I thought Stevens rejoined earlier, but yeah, I think you're right. That'll be where Stevens rejoined. That's such a stunning livery on the MFR car this week. Always part of the fun of majors, seeing what livery MF Racing will run, and it's another stunner. That's a late look, having to use the curbs to pull it up and get it turned in, but up the inside and back a spot goes Gavin Barber after that little dive from Mizomo.
Barber, of course, running that motion rig. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, Reese. The point I was going to make earlier before Hinsey had that dive was the critical point for Mizomo is to get himself as high up as he can, even though he's not going to win this race. Starting positions for race 2 are determined by where you finish in this one. So if he can get back to where he started in 8th, he's still in with a good shout for race 2.
Yeah, he certainly is, and we've got to think about points as well. Points paying for this round is divided equally across both races, so each position is actually worth more points in this shorter race. So it's especially critical for Mizomo to charge up the field as best he can. Have a look at this fight coming into turn 2 here. The 2 avatar cars of Burns and Bowen with Will Leslie sandwiched in the middle. Gavin Barber's trying to stay ahead of them here, but remember he just got passed by Mizomo, so his rhythm might be slightly off, and that's something that these 3 can certainly take advantage of. The Avatar Auto Racing guys, Burns and Bowen, they're not having the best of races at the moment, at least in Dwayne Burns' case. He, of course, started inside the top 10 and has fallen down to 14th, but Shane Bowen up 1 position from where he started, so these 2, they've been particularly even with each other in most rounds of the series, and it looks like business as usual here. How long can Will Leslie hold on to this?
Our biggest movers in the race, Will Leslie actually, is up 5 spots at the moment. That's now 4 spots because he has lost that spot to Dwayne Burns on this lap. Mizomo's probably done the most overtakes, but he's down 3 from where he started. Up 5 for Sam Harper. Started 14th. He's now up inside the top 10 in 9th. And Matt Andrews has gained 4 spots from 10th up to 6th.
Well, here's the fighting here. Matt Andrews and Daniel Stevens for 6th and 7th. Stevens, of course, looking to move forward again after his mistake at Southern Loop. It's a shame for him because Stevens, of course, has a lot of time in these cars. Matt Andrews saw him coming from a long way back there and stays wide to give him a little bit of room and lifts off actually at the exit of the hairpin. I think he reckons, I think he knows Stevens is recovering, and of course Andrews is up 4 from where he started. He's taken advantage of mistakes for others, so I think he's aware of the fact that they're effectively running completely different races.
And they are only just coming up to the halfway point of this race as well, so there's still plenty of time left to go. And Thomas Hinz hasn't been able to pull away by any stretch of the imagination from Cameron Dance. I think this lap, if anything, has been his best lap since getting ahead of Cameron. It was a 29.8 that time for Cameron and a 29.7 for Hinsey. Gap between them about 0.4 of a second at the line. So Cameron Dance still sticking right with him, putting him under a lot of pressure right now. And the two series protagonists continue to go toe to toe with Sean Campbell just lurking off in the distance in third place. You can see him in the background there.
Further to what I was saying before, it's so good to see Cameron Dance and Thomas Hinz fighting directly with each other, because we haven't seen much of that this season. The championship fight between them has stayed very close, but they haven't always been close to each other on track. A big boon for Thomas Hinz was Cameron Dance's mistake in the Nürburgring 2.4. Actually, not so much a mistake, but a hardware failure for Cam, which allowed Hinsey to come through and take the win. Big part of why he's one of the championship protagonists here today. And currently in the position he's in, it's looking pretty good. 14 laps to go, and we're pretty much past half race distance at this point. So for now, Hinsey is in control. But we've got to think about tyres. If you work the tyres too hard in the early stages of the race, especially with no pit stop required in this one, then you'll probably be a sitting duck at the end. It's going to come down to who's a bit more gentle.
What was that? Just behind Jonathan Bain, I think it was. Across Lukey Heights. That's Sam Harper, and now he's coming into pit lane.
Oh.
It's an interesting call.
Yeah, right. What's...
He just about lost that car as he emerged over the crest. That thing was completely sideways.
Yeah, actually it was. I've just gone and looked back at it, coming over the crest at Lukey Heights. Let's see on board with him here. Coming out of... yeah, well, I was going to say Siberia, but...
That's I moved on.
Yes. We will see this oversteer moment for him. Oh, that was big there for Sam Harper, fortunately recovering it. Very important to keep it as straight as possible in these things. They're 1.5 tons in weight, 650 horsepower, and no differential in the back. Something I say pretty much every time there's a V8 broadcast here on SimSpeed, but there's a reason I say it all the time. It's important. These are fundamental attributes of these cars which make them so hard to drive in the first place.
What do you think of this call from Harper? He's come in and he's grabbed some fresh rubber there, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I don't see much sense in that. I mean, obviously tyres will drop off towards the end, but there's no pit stop requirement in this race, and you can very easily go 27 laps without having to come into the pits. Maybe it's just a confidence thing for Harper as we get this move at Siberia. Brian Barnes unfortunately sent wide there by, I think that was Brett Loxton, now up into 16th place, but Barnes having to take a trip through the sandpit.
Cameron Dance and Thomas Hinz. Hinsey has to go to the defensive route because Dance was right there. Almost wiped his nose on the back of the Jinx Shifter's Mustang through Southern Loop, and it set him up for a great run through Stoner and into Honda Corner. Hairpin, rather. But good defense there from Hinsey. Didn't move it right over, just enough to dissuade Dance from making the move.
Well, no move being made there as I noticed a position change between Jonathan Bain and Alexander Sheridan. Bain is now up into 8th place, and Brett Loxton has just gotten past Justin Kirby for 15th. So still moves being made back in the field, but this is pretty much a dead set stalemate between our two championship contenders up at the front. Have a look at this exit here from Dance. He is in the draft of Thomas Hinz down the front stretch. Coming into turn 1, will he go for the move all the way over to the right-hand side? And just about draws alongside as they get to the middle of the corner, but Hinsey on the throttle gets the exit beautifully and stays ahead coming into Southern Loop. He'll stick right to the inside to stymie the run of Cameron Dance. You can double apex that corner if you swing out wide in the middle of it, but Hinsey would not have wanted to do that. That would have just allowed Cameron Dance to sniff at the lead. And will this happen again at the Honda hairpin? No. Hinsey stays on the racing line. Dance had a look, but he's just keeping it nice and calm, which is what we like to see. Cameron Dance is one of the better racers out there. He knows how to conduct himself.
That was great driving at turn 1 from Hinsey. He didn't allow Dance any room on the inside. He pinched Dance down to the apex so that Cameron couldn't get on the throttle early enough. He had to lift off to stop himself washing into the door of Hinsey. And it allowed Thomas Hinz to just get on the throttle, power himself back ahead while Cameron was still wrestling his car under control. So here we go. A teammate of Cameron Dance, Simon Mizomo, around the outside at Siberia. That's a good move on Alexander Sheridan.
Certainly is. Brilliant stuff from Mizomo, and he's back into the top 9 now. So it's been a great recovery from Simon Mizomo in this race. How much time has he got ahead to Jonathan Baines? Something like 1.4 seconds. Let's see if he can make that up in 11 laps as Cameron Dance back in the slipstream of Thomas Hinz down the start-finish straight. Gains on him coming into Doohan corner, named of course for Mick Doohan, legendary motorcycle racer from Australia. And you just saw the first, oh my goodness, oh dear, Loxton coming together with one of the Avatar Auto Racing guys. That's the number 7, that's Shane Bowen. They come together, coming out of the penultimate corner. How on earth did this happen? It looked quite close between them, and they actually had a fair few cars to deal with here up ahead, but Bowen on the inside of Loxton, just a little bit of understeer as they come out of the penultimate turn. And, well, Loxton, I think, had the right to stay there on the outside. He was past the B pillar, but, yeah, I think just unfortunate there, a characteristic of maybe just trying to keep the foot in.
I think it looked like it might have been a characteristic of iRacing. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Thanks, iRacing.
The two cars coming together with maybe a little bit of space between them. And I'll correct myself, Loxton was not up to the B pillar of Shane Bowen, but level with the rear wheels.
On corner exit.
Yeah.
Can't force someone off though, but yeah, no, car on the inside didn't force him off though, so fair racing from both drivers. Just unfortunate how it played out. I want to know, Sean Campbell, he's ruined it. He'd done 3 laps in a row, 29.86, 29.88, 29.86. Super consistent. While the two in front of him diced. He's now gone even quicker though, 29.7. So at the top 2 battle, Sean Campbell is edging closer.
Cameron Dance, I think, will certainly welcome that. He would like a teammate, a friend, to help him out with this battle with Thomas Hinz. But again, we did see how quick Campbell was at the start of the race, so he might be a bit of a threat to victory here for Cameron Dance. At this stage of the championship, yeah, he's in the lead, but he can't afford to give up any more points than he needs to.
Does Cameron welcome Campbell into the fight? I think Campbell might want to go for the win if he gets up there.
Oh yeah, absolutely he will. That's the point I'm trying to make with the pace that Campbell is running at.
Well, that huge challenge from Dance for a couple of laps has just subsided for now. I think he's just...
Go on, Ryan.
I'm just thinking over Dean Moll's decision to pit now in my head. I think Cameron's, just sitting back and cooling his stuff off again, including his head. And then he'll have another big crack with 6 or 7 laps to go. But this one is certainly not over with 8 to go now in this race. So Dean Moll brought to pit road there, we just saw. Looks like he may be retiring from this one. He's a lap down.
Yeah, poor Dean Moll. He's not had the best of runs this season. Just luck has not fallen his way, and maybe he's just been having too many issues in the car today, deciding to call it a night for at least the first race. Hopefully we see him in race 2 as Dance has another look at the inside of Thomas Hinz. There was no chance of the move being made that time, but again, it's the psychological game that you have to deal with in racing. looking over your shoulder. If your rival is moving in your mirrors, that's distracting. It takes your eye off what you need to do to nail every apex, every corner exit, every braking zone. But
this is why you don't race with mirrors.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? A funny story. I was competing in a league many years ago where there was a big incident. One of the drivers just straight up blocking, and then in the discussion after the race, he was asked by said driver, you know, well, why did you move over? Didn't you check your mirrors? And his answer was, I don't use mirrors, and he got himself a ban from the league very shortly after.
That seems like a fair decision, yes. Mirrors are very important, but they can be a nuisance sometimes. If you have a driver behind you as smart as Cameron, and he is filling those mirrors at every opportunity, in every corner. 7 to go in race 1. That was a poor lap from Campbell, sorry.
Yeah, it was. It was an 8.58 where Thomas Hinds did a 29.69. Still a bit of a distance away from his fastest lap of a 29.2.
Oh, it's a previous lap. Sorry, the gap went up to 2.1 seconds, and I couldn't figure out why. It's the previous lap. Campbell's made a mistake. He did a 1 minute 30.
Ah. Righto.
So that's cost him a bunch of time.
Yeah, it has. He's not a part of the picture in that lead battle, but in the picture right now for 12th is Gavin Barber, trying to find his way past Will Leslie here, down to the hairpin. They've got Dwayne Burns up ahead of them as well. And Shane Bowen out of the picture here thanks to the incident he had with Brett Loxton earlier, so these guys are free to fight amongst themselves as they see fit. Gavin Barber in that motion rig, he'll be hoping that there's no big crashes for him, otherwise he might get thrown out of that seat.
The seat looks a bit wonky, doesn't it?
Maybe slightly.
Maybe he's already had a big shot.
Well, Barber seems reasonably comfortable for the time being. He's got the concentration face on, looking into every corner.
I wonder if you could use it as like a rocking chair to go to sleep.
Potentially. Oh, lead. Cameron Dance ran the outside of Thomas Hinds into the hairpin.
Well, that's not going to work.
It's not going to work. We get the replay, though, of Bowen going off at Siberia. That allowed Brett Loxton through cleanly this time. But the lead battle stays as it is. But this is what happened. Cameron Dance got a great run on Thomas Hinds, but Hinsey, with the defensive line at the hairpin, kept it in the lead, and Dance maybe getting into the marbles slightly around the outside. The gap for the lead now at 0.6 of a second, which is the furthest apart it's been for a while. Cameron's going to have to find something else in the tank if he wants to have a lob here.
Hey, 6 or 7 laps to go, told you. It's, 27 laps into this race. Almost. Yeah, there'll be plenty of marbles out there on the exits, just off the racing line of these corners, and it probably caught Cameron out there. He might have been able to do that early on in the race, but at this point, I don't think there's any way that's got the grip, unless you're really hanging off the door of the car on the inside. So this needs to be a pretty good lap from Cameron here to set himself up for a charge in the final couple of laps.
Yep, got a nail.
Campbell as he falls further away, Reese.
Ah, yeah, he is falling further away. He's now